Okay. Yes. Okay, some familiar faces, some new faces. Okay, so today's presentation is about Malaysia Baru. So Malaysia Baru is in reference to there's a new government in Malaysia, right? So and how that will bring Iskandar to greater heights. So a bit about myself. I'm Malaysian, but I've been in Singapore since 2009. Previously, I was in KL, and now actually I spend half my time since the past 2 years in JB and Singapore. So half my time here, half my time there. I'm one of those people who travel, commute fairly regularly. 5 years ago, I wrote this book called "What's the Big Deal with Iskandar Malaysia," and that was sold very well, sold over 3,000 copies. Very popular then. Iskandar was very popular 5 years ago, and you will see me very regularly in all these events in Singapore, JB, now recently Hong Kong a couple of times to talk about Iskandar Malaysia and tell people how Iskandar Malaysia works. So I'm writing a new book. This book will be ready by November, December. Going to start printing soon, which is an update since my old book is 5 years old already. So, and the new book is 30% thicker. I got lots of things to say now because after Iskandar has grown 5 years, you've got more stories to tell. So do buy, right? It'll be out in bookstores by December, January, thereabouts. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to talk more about Chinese people in Iskandar, talk about Forest City, right? All these are very interesting topics, right? So other things that we do, we have 4 companies, right? And basically Alpha Marketing is my corporate advisory. We have another company in JB called FY Design that does interior fit out for owners. So you buy a property, you need to fit out your house for rental, for own stay, all that. We do that for you as well. And we have another company, IMBNB, that does hotel management for select properties in Johor. So, like Airbnb, but we run it like a hotel. Okay, so 3 topics. Okay, first topic is on economic trends. So first thing to note is that Iskandar population has grown quite a fair bit. Today, unofficially, we are more than 2 million already. KL, in reference, is about 8 million. Okay, Klang Valley, not just KL. Klang Valley is about 8 million. So Johor, JB now is about 2 million plus already. Johor last time is 3 million, now it's 3.7, 3.8 million already in Johor. Singapore is about 5.5. Now, right? So population growth is very strong, about 70% per annum, and there's a lot of internal migration. Department of Statistics show that a lot of people come to Johor for work now. I'm interviewing a lot of new people for my company, and I can see a lot of what we call turtle return. Right? They come back from Singapore back to Johor, KL come back to Johor, quite a fair bit. Sabah, Sarawakian come to Johor, also very common now. The old tourism in Malaysia used to say that 40% of all MM2H applicants are actually Johor residents. That means come to stay in Johor, MM2H. Considering that JB is always recognized as the 3rd largest city, we have 40% is actually very big, very strong number. Okay, recently a lot of Koreans, mainland Chinese. The next thing to watch, of course, is investments, new investments to Iskandar. You can see even the past few years, net investment per annum is very strong. Still very strong, although we say Iskandar not doing so well. But actually, business activity in Iskandar is fairly strong. A lot of it is in manufacturing, right? The latest we have seen, big one is an aerospace company. They come to do aircraft repair, maintenance, overhaul. They took 3 factory lots in Nusajaya Tech Park. Very big company, right? Easily 200 staff with R&D center. Yeah, so 2013, Johor was the largest, number 1 state in Malaysia for new manufacturing investments. Whole Malaysia, more than KL, more than Penang, more than Sabah, Sarawak, right? 2013, new incoming committed manufacturing investments. I have a whole new slide about, a whole new presentation on manufacturing, but that's another half an hour, which we don't have time. So, so just talking about high level, right? Manufacturing 2013, Johor number 1, 2014, Johor number 1, 2015, Johor number 1, 2016, Johor number 1, 2017, Johor number 1. 2018, Johor also will be number 1. We're already October, and I think theoretically nobody will potong us by year end. Okay, we will be number 1. I'll add another slide next year for the 2018 number once MIDA confirms the final tally. Right? Johor will be number 1 for 6 years running if I add 2018. This is something very grossly underreported in Singapore, very grossly underreported even in Malaysia, because KL people don't admit that actually Johor got a lot of manufacturing investments. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So a lot of it is in Pengerang, which is the oil and gas hub in the east, right? But we have seen a lot of Singaporean-based factory come across, Chinese, Korean factory, Japanese also, right? Opening factory in Johor. These few years, a lot. Right, so that's one. Hey, stuck already. Not working already. Okay. I come over here, right? So, for some reason it's not working. Okay, so, yeah. So, give you one example of a slide, right? Okay, this was article came out in 2016. It highlight 3 companies that were coming to Malaysia, Johor, to open up a factory. Okay, and you can see that there are 4 names here. 3 of them are foreign names. And if you look at the first name is called MET Energy. Use Google to find their company is called Sabrina Holdings. And Sabrina Holdings is based in Beach Road, South Beach Tower, Singapore. Okay, so they do oil infrastructure asset company. The second company is called Musim Mas. Basically, it's a palm oil company, right? Headquartered in Singapore. You go to their website. Headquartered in Singapore, right? They only have 2 addresses, again in Beach Road, Singapore. And yeah, the third company is called Steinway Group. They're a Dutch logistics company. You Google the Pasir Gudang address. 2 years ago, it was showing Jurong Port, Singapore. So what I'm trying to say is that there have been a lot of Singapore-originated manufacturing investments into Johor, right? And in fact, like that I mentioned just now, the GKN, the aerospace company in JB, the boss also is American, commutes from Singapore to JB. We are trying to convince him to buy a house or rent a house in Johor, so he don't do the commute. But these people all still stubborn, don't understand. But never mind, in time. And yeah, a lot. Coca-Cola, for example, is no longer bottled in Singapore. Coca-Cola is now bottled in JB. You guys know, right? The Tuas one got closed down, moved across there already. Volkswagen, BMW, spare parts all come from Johor. Whatever you buy today, original ones, all are shipped from the Southeast Asia, that one. Dyson makes a lot of components for Dyson fan, all that are all made in Johor. Okay, so yeah, so very common to see now Singapore-based, not necessarily Singaporean, Singapore-based manufacturers moving over to Johor. The other thing to take note is that by 2030, Singapore is going to move the port from Tanjong Pagar to Tuas. Right, when that happens, there'll be a huge relocation of factories. All the B2 factories in Tuas will have nowhere to go. So the B2 factories have to go somewhere, right? So we still have 13 years to figure out where all the B2 factories will go. Okay, I don't want to say go where, but we don't know where they're going to go. So it's not easy to get a B2 factory nowadays, and the lease, as you know, in Tuas are getting shorter and shorter because government may not release back this land to them in the near future, right? Ascendus, Singapore Ascendus has a 500-acre project, which is a joint venture with the same developer here, UEM Sunrise, very near all these projects. Later they can show you. Right, so Ascendus 5-6 years ago did a JV with UEM Tech Park, Nusajaya Tech Park. Right, have a number of companies. I was just there last Thursday. You can see quite a number of factories there already. In fact, my own company, FY Design, that we do fit out, right? Actually, originally when I started that business was to do for condo and condo and shop house, maybe retail and offices, right? But we have now a lot of these factories come and find me. I actually don't know how come they end up coming and find me to do for factory. One guy is from Woodlands, one guy is from Sembawang. I cannot tell you the name. One more guy is from Tuas side. And the latest one, of course, is the aerospace factory, which also we are in the tender process for that. So a lot of factories going on now in Nusajaya Tech Park. It's taken a while because the problem with factories is when you buy a factory, you cannot say buy today, tomorrow open shop. It doesn't work like that, right? So there's a bit of a gestation period as they get budgets and decide what to do, etc. So it's taken a few years, but now you can see Nusajaya Tech Park starting to fill up. Okay, this is a photo taken very many years ago, 2017, but of course now it doesn't look like this. Now it looks much more. I should update the photo, okay. Then of course Chinese factories. A lot of Chinese factories now. In fact, I have just rented out one office to a Chinese e-commerce company, but that's not manufacturing. But we see a lot of Chinese factories. The biggest one is in nearer to Senai up there. It's a tire factory. But there are more. The latest one, there was one discussed last year for robotic arm from Beijing, also coming here to build robots. That's the reason why we now have direct flight from Senai to Guangzhou, right? And we also have now direct flights to Shenzhen, Bangkok, Calcutta, Seoul. Seoul also has a flight now from Senai. Jakarta, I think sometime back. Okay, Senai Airport is grossly undersized. They require to do airport expansion. Okay, it's like Penang Airport. Penang Airport now going through expansion. Senai Airport also, if you ask me, is a matter of time because the airport cannot support this kind of growth. Okay, next is education. This is a photo of Marlborough College, the biggest, most expensive international school in Iskandar Putri, very nearby Estuary and all these projects. So this is a photo of their teachers, okay? And Education today is the largest tenant provider for Iskandar Putri site. You either have the teachers, all these things, all this kind of stuff, or the families of the students, which are predominantly today Korean in Iskandar Putri. Korean, a lot of Japanese, a lot of Chinese, but predominantly Korean. A lot of Korean, right? Yeah, over 1,000 students. Marlborough College, one semester, 80 over 1,000 ringgit, one semester. Okay, so which is expensive, okay. And then you have Raffles American School. Again, this is an old photo. I have to update my photos. Okay, so this is Raffles American School from Singapore Raffles Education Group. Okay, also open already. That's about 500 students now. Then you also have, these are some photos. Okay, and Sunway is in Medini, has also their own Canadian school also open. So these are the three big ones with the biggest student population in Iskandar Putri. Okay, and you also see a lot of people from Singapore sending their kids there because otherwise not many locals can afford the school fees. So a lot of foreigners and from Singapore-based children. Well, Singapore, actually, private education is even more expensive in comparison to Malaysia, right? So yeah, education-related tenants are very, very big, biggest groups. Okay, so next is tourism. Tourism. So the number from Ministry of Tourism is actually unfortunately very outdated. They never update beyond 2014. But you can see that from 2012 onwards, when Iskandar start to pick up, you can see the growth in hotel room supply and hotel room nights. If you look at one reason is because of the number of theme parks, right? So we have 4. The ones in green are operational today, right? And the ones in black are the ones which are coming up by end of this year or early next year. Okay, actually the Saru also actually consider operational. You should move up as a green one. The Saru one already opened sometime in July. Okay, so many theme parks coming up, and this creates stays, right? So Legoland opened 2012. Now they have Legoland opened 2012. Then you have the Legoland Hotel. Legoland Hotel, Legoland Water Park. Then you have the Legoland will open their aquarium, which is called under the Sea Life brand by end of this year. If you go to Legoland today, you'll see in front of the main gate there's a giant construction going on. That's for the aquarium. The aquarium is for real fish, right? It's not Lego fish. So the yeah, people ask me that question, right? I have to answer that question. Someone asked me before, aquarium, Legoland. Then how aquarium Legoland? No, is it Lego? No, it's real fish. Okay, people get confused. So this year and then Deep Pristine Medini will open a science fiction theme park, AR, VR, something like the one in Mid Valley early next year. Then Sunway has their own extreme sports park in the final phases of construction already. I saw that they have a driving range, golf course. You know, golf in Malaysia is so cheap compared to Singapore, right? Archery, paintball, badminton, futsal. I got a lot of photos, but no time to show. This one already opened in the Saru since since July. Hard Rock Hotel just only opened official launch maybe last month. Hard Rock Hotel, but not cheap. But actually, the Saru Hotel theoretically to me as a Malaysian hotel is not cheap, but nice. I mean, it's the only place in near Singapore where you can get white beach, so-called East Coast Malaysian beach. I have to go all the way to Terengganu, which is very far, right? So the Saru is the nearest, okay? But open already, including this water theme park with this giant wave pool, also open already, okay? So all this will create stays. So last time you go JB, it's 2 day, 1 night. Some of you don't even stay the night, right? Go there, massage, eat, then go back to Singapore, right? So 2 day, 1 night become 3 day, 2 night, 4 day, 3 night, etc. So same thing for the tourists, right? Got more things for them to give, show them, right? The China tourists now, if they're smart, they should send them all to the Saru also. Let them go and play the sand, right? Etc. Extend the stay. That's the whole idea for tourism, right? So Airbnb, in 2017, Malaysia was the #1. Sorry, before that, in 2017, Airbnb data shows that Johor Bahru was actually the 6th fastest growing Airbnb bookings globally. Globally, up 262%. This was in 2017. That shows that a lot of people in Johor are doing Airbnb, okay, in JB. And actually, Malaysia was overall #1 in 2017. Okay, so that shows you tourism. Another way to show you tourism is strong. And why does that happen? Okay, then so we still have this problem, right? We still have this problem, right? The jam is still there. We have increased the toll, reduced the toll. It's still like this. Okay, because there's a capacity problem, right? It doesn't, not flexible. Okay, so yeah, so the problem with Johor, or why we say Johor price don't shoot up even further, is because of connectivity. Right, this photo I like it because it explains the problem. Right, if it takes you 2-3 hours to cross from JB to Singapore or vice versa, you know, in JB 2-3 hours I can reach Malacca. If I'm damn fast, I break the speed limit, I can reach KL. Right, so imagine people in Singapore who don't drive, ask you to spend 2-3 hours to go to JB, wow, you kisiao, you know, you cannot, so you will not do that. Right, so if you can fix this problem, everything in JB will change, right? Because theoretically, if you buy a condo in Woodlands today, how much is a condo in Woodlands today? A private property in Woodlands, 900 per square foot, maybe 1,000. Private condo, depend how old, right? Sing dollars, okay? You compare to a property across the border, which is just missing one train only, right? It's about 1,000 ringgit, so 3 times cheaper, right? Depending on what project you buy, right? So there's something wrong there. The price gap is huge, right? So when MRT connects, everything can change, right? So the problem needs to be resolved. So how do we solve it? Is these two, high-speed rail and than MRT, right? So one target market, of course, is always the Malaysians who cross the border to work. Okay, there are lots of Malaysians, over 1 million Malaysians, people like myself who are PR, not PR, working past, crossing the border. A lot of Singaporeans, Malaysians intermarry. A lot of you have Malaysian or Singaporean relatives across the border, right? So that's why 5 years ago, these two fella, good friend, then they do a train. Right at the time, wow, this newspaper article made everyone excited. Say we must buy Johor. So, then they did the bilateral agreement in early 2016. But and then this was the plan, right, to connect the populations all the way to Kuala Lumpur, 90 minutes, right? And then suddenly this thing happened. Right, so we have Malaysia Baru. So in Malaysia Baru, high-speed rail was put on hold. Right, so in Malaysia Baru, so in May this year, the opposition Pakatan Harapan won. Right, we'll talk about that later in a bit more detail. But when that happened, what happens is, when that happened, number one, our Prime Minister confused everybody. Right, first he said cancel, then he said postpone, but why does it? Yeah, postpone, and then they officially postpone it in later on. So the high-speed rail will only be decided in by May 2020. So it's a put on hold. Okay, we will only decide what happens to high-speed rail by May 2020, which is actually a very long time. From now to May 2020 is another how long? 1.5 years. Very long. Okay, very long. So Malaysia will pay Singapore a $15 million penalty. Right, and we were delayed for 2 years. You know, I tell you right, there's 2 reasons. Number one, Singapore don't want to cancel it. You know, they plan so much, right? They will not want to cancel it. They want to keep it. So if Malaysia need 2 years, fine, give them the 2 years. But I don't want to change how Jurong is going to be done. I want the high-speed rail. So if Malaysia say they want 2 years, 2 years. And Malaysia also cannot cancel because the penalties are very high for cancelling. Mahathir say $500,000 ringgit. Actually, 500 million ringgit actually is wrong. It's a lot more than that. Okay, he guessed the number wrong. It's a lot more than that. Okay, so he cannot cancel. He cannot cancel. They cancel, he had to pay a lot of money. And Singapore should chase the money. So they will have to postpone. Right? It will happen. I'll talk about that later. So the good news is, of course, for town centre, Transport Minister say they will go ahead with RTS. So RTS will still happen. So RTS is basically the one in Woodlands, right? Yeah. Yeah, so RTS site is basically here, right? The one opposite City Square. They will still build the MRT. So it's good news because as long as they still build the RTS, we will solve the problem in part, if not in full, right? We must have at least one connection first. The faster, the better. Now it doesn't really matter whether it's Iskandar Putri or Town Centre. We need to build the train ASAP. ASAP, right? Everybody say ASAP, but the workers who are doing it are damn slow. So, so it will connect over to Woodlands North, right? Opposite Republic Poly. The track is something like that, right? It will curve. So the MRT will be built because it only costs 4 billion ringgit Malaysia side, which is a lot cheaper. It's just a bridge. It's a very simple bridge, right? And then a train on top. So it will look something like that. It will cross along Grand Blue Hotel directly into CIQ. Right, and Singapore side, this old town centre, if you've been there recently, under tearing down if you go, if you all haven't been there recently, this old checkpoint has been torn down because immigration requires a space for expansion, right? Because I don't know what they're going to do, but maybe more car to go in, okay? But they already start to tear down already, this old town, Woodlands Town Centre. Okay, so bilateral agreement for RTS was signed in January. There is some delay now because of election won, and then our new Pakatan government fired everybody in Prasarana, so now I have to find out who's going to do the job. Okay, so that's another problem with a new government. But It will happen. My source tell me it will happen. So why we're doing it? Because we want to be like Hong Kong, right? Hong Kong and Shenzhen is the best example. Today, Hong Kong to Shenzhen, there's MRT, right? You can go from Central or Kowloon, you can reach Shenzhen in about 45 minutes, plus minus, okay, via MRT today. And there are multiple MRT lines, and thousands, literally thousands, travel across the border like this, and they do lots of things, either work, play, buy milk powder also, right? Everybody does that, MRT. MRT solves so many problems. It's taken for granted today in Hong Kong, right? And now they have high-speed rail, which has opened recently. So you can now, from 45 minutes MRT, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, you can 45 minutes Hong Kong, Guangzhou, okay, which traditionally takes 2 hours. Okay, now it's 45 minutes high-speed rail, Hong Kong, Guangzhou. So Guangzhou now pulled into the Hong Kong sphere of influence, right? And this bridge also ready. Oh, I also need to change this slide. The bridge is also ready. Now you can drive direct from Hong Kong direct to Zhuhai, Macau. It's a 50 over kilometer bridge. Okay, so multiple ways to connect. Thailand wants to build high-speed rail to China, and then yeah, they have a budget for it already. And actually, early this year, before election, Koh Boon Wan, Transport Minister of Singapore, actually went to the site in Woodlands. He took a photo. Show you. This is the photo, but taken in early this year, okay. RTS construction site. So Singapore site already more or less built already, land clearing already. Okay, now waiting for Malaysia to start. And then this was the photo taken with Prasarana, Johor, EPU, SPAD. But again, of course, Malaysia side, half of them are fired already. They are no longer at the job. Okay, that's the problem when the government change. Okay, but we'll talk about that later. So, so yeah. Okay, so yeah, so it will look just like MRT this artist impression, right? Connection over to JB, right? So how long will it take? I mean, theoretically, the plan is still 2024. We may expect some delay because now of the new government change, but 2024 is the earliest time frame. So we want to solve this problem. You want to solve this problem, okay? So that's it for trends. Now next is property supply demand. Okay, first question that everybody asked about Malaysia today, and actually I will answer this question even for KL or for Penang. It's the same whether the degrees may be different, the market segment that's affected may be different. The question is, got oversupply or not? Okay, the answer is yes. Short answer is yes. Okay, and the problem why Singaporeans feel it very hard is because Singaporeans tend to buy all the high-end stuff. You all tend to buy the expensive luxury project, right? You don't buy mass market house. Okay, mass market house actually, if you ask me, in Malaysia is not enough. Okay, or under supply. But in the high-end market, we are in short oversupply. But to most people in Singapore, I answer Singapore also oversupply. Rent low, Singapore, vacancy rate higher. We are building like nobody's business now in Singapore also, right? So Singapore theoretically also oversupply. Last time Singapore rental yield 4%, now you're about 2 point something, some cases, right? Also, why you rent drop? Because oversupply. Okay, actually a lot of cities across the world also oversupply now. Melbourne also oversupply, CBD. Last time Melbourne yield is 5-6%, now Melbourne yield is maybe 4%. CBD Melbourne, right? So London also same thing. Last time London 5 point something, now it's 4 point something London, right? So generally speaking, a lot of real estate across the world are in a so-called oversupply, and Iskandar is included. We are also oversupply, especially for high-end market today. Is it difficult to find tenant? It's a tenant market, still a tenant's market, right? Rent have dropped, but yield now also in Johor now is about 3-4% for luxury market. Okay, and a lot of owners have to do things like to furnish well to find tenant. If you want to rent out empty, I can tell you it's impossible, almost impossible. Okay, you have to furnish to find a tenant, compete for the market. You must make your property stand out, otherwise you cannot find. And you must understand, Korean, Japanese, all people they come, they must see a house that looks like a house. You cannot say, oh, curtain you buy yourself, furniture you buy yourself. Wow, they also tell. You know, Korean, how to come JB buy furniture? You can't even speak Malay. Buy what furniture? Everybody go IKEA. Okay, so you understand what I'm talking about, right? You must have the tenant You don't have the tenant, how the tenant want to rent the house. You get what I mean? A lot of owner lazy, they don't want to do it. Then they say, oh, tenant, this is tenant problem. Then tenant problem, you give tenant problem, the tenant won't find you. Simple story, right? But effectively, in my company FY Design, we can rent out a lot of properties. I think I have a statistic in my FY that we rent out 70% of furnished properties within 2 to 3 months effectively. Okay, so who are the tenants? For high-end residential, tends to be this type of foreign tenants. Okay, corporate leases also very common for high-end market. Local, you will not get so much. Okay, so property prices, actually Malaysia property prices have more or less flattened out. For luxury segment, you can see some price drops 5-15%. So in a sense, it's good to buy. Developers, a lot of owners are more flexible nowadays, right? And it's a buyer's market, same thing, buyer's market, tenant's market. Okay, so will the market recover? So the important thing is when will this thing end? Okay, we all agree, or we can say very safely, oversupply now. Okay, but when will oversupply end? That is the question, right? And what I'm trying to say is that peak supply is this year, next year. After that, it will drop very, very sharply. Okay? Now, what do I mean? This is a slide that shows you basically completions, number of apartments that will complete. I only use the high-end properties. I don't count the mass market for local one that Singaporean cannot buy one. I count the Singaporean eligible, foreigner eligible condos and landed houses, okay? You will see that like that is a bit confusing, but if you look at the overall, the major 4 markets in JB, the major 4 suburbs, and you plot it out over until 2020, you notice that everything more or less finished these 3 years. After that, it dropped. It dropped. Why? Because ever since 2015, 2016, a lot of developers have stopped new launches. They are, unlike Singapore where we still got a lot of new launches, okay? In JB, at least ever since 2015, 2016, the number of new launches have dropped quite a fair bit. In fact, you see all the developers today are more or less selling either phase 2 or balance units from earlier launch projects, okay? No one has really launched new projects in Johor ever since 2015, 2016. And that will result, by 2019, 2020, supply to taper off. And as an investor, or if you already buy, or you want to buy, that is good news. Good news. That means the market didn't go crazy. We're not building some more another few 100,000 along the way. Okay, got it? So in town center, JB CBD, the only guy effectively still building is RNF. Okay, in Nusa Jaya side, Iskandar Putri side, actually no one is building already. Theoretically, no one is building already. You don't count Forest City. Forest City is another animal, but within Iskandar Putri, okay. Putri Harbour, Medini, Nusa Jaya areas, post 2019, 2020, we are about there. So that is good news. So the market can only recover once this happens. Okay? Because property supply scenario will be better. But as I mentioned, by 2020, you'll notice that new supply will have dropped. There's less competition for owners after 2020 onwards. You need to let that happen. Plus announcement of high-speed rail. Okay, that will allow market to recover in JB. Okay, so yeah, so it's a cyclical thing, right? Property market is in a cyclical thing, right? So we are waiting for high-speed rail, HSR. When RTS start construction, also very likely by 2020. Okay, people will have confidence again in JB. So property market, we are somewhere here. Okay, we are somewhere here, right? So the question is how long you're willing to wait for it to return to here. Right, so we have a few kickers that will change. Supply demand improving, political economic situation improving from the Malaysia Baru government, and construction or progress of the HSR and the RTS. These are the potential kicker for Iskandar property 1-2 years down the road. We are not very far away from that. Okay, so yeah, and the thing about Singapore is, I want to mention, since we're in Singapore upside now is actually limited. I can tell you that already. You can tell from how the government is reacting. If they see the price move up too fast, government will say, oh, new cooling measure. Simple. It's very easy one. Oh, Singapore, price moving up too fast, something wrong. Cooling measure. Cooling measure. Cooling measure until you don't move up already. You understand? In Singapore, that's the method. So what I take all honest is the Singapore market price, I won't say drop, but you cannot see the strong price growth already. At least for the foreseeable future, Singapore residential market. So a lot of, I know people in Singapore are looking overseas, Malaysia included, right? Yeah, and I want to remind you how the price differential is between JB and Singapore. Okay? Okay? Oh, still very big. Still very big. Still very big. Still very big. Actually, I'm using condo. If you use to landed, it's even cheaper. Because landed per square foot built up is actually normally cheaper. Okay, so you know, if you buy a landed, the per square foot of a landed is always cheaper than a per square foot of a condo, right? Yeah, so yeah, so this is still very big. even after Singapore, especially after Singapore price has moved up in the past couple of quarters. Okay, so there's a lot of value in Malaysia. You can buy freehold, etc. But I think that one, yeah, and of course developers nowadays are a lot more flexible. There's a lot more things you can do. It's as good a time as any. You asked me, last year was the best year to buy. This year also quite good to buy. When? Next year also actually is still a good year to buy. Actually, yeah, 2019 also I think is a good year to buy because generally we won't really recover until 2020 onwards. Oh, actually, what I'm trying to see, people always equate the problem when we look at oversupply is people always equate oversupply as no demand. That's the wrong or misconception, right? There is demand. Right, there is demand in JB. The reason why I have those slides in the front section to show you about economic, who are all the businesses, etc., all that, is to show you that there is demand. But of course, now the problem is that the demand growth is strong, but our supply growth has also been very strong in this few years. So you cannot see prices go up because supply is so strong, right? So now once supply starts to taper off, which is 2020 onwards, then you have a chance for, as long as demand remains reasonable, then you will see that prices can increase. Actually, I already quote you certain scenarios where this happens in more extreme cases. Number one, there's a story to tell at the last PropertyGuru event I did. Penthouses. In Puteri Harbour today, okay, there are very limited penthouses for rent. Okay, this is a very typical supply-demand scenario. Okay, there's only like maybe under 20 penthouses available for rent. Okay, and in Tiga, Puteri Harbour, there were only 2 penthouses that were fully furnished for rental. One was rented at 14,000, one was rented at 18,000. I actually told the owner, you can get 10,000, you're happy already. But the owner said 10,000 too low. Okay, and he can actually push his rental up because he was the only available penthouse fully furnished at that point in time. So he got an 18,000 rental. In Puteri Harbour, right? So what I'm trying to say in a broader sense, in Iskandar, 2020 market start to recover. How long it takes for your rent start to go up? It may be another 1-2 years. It may be, right? But it also depends what type of property you buy, right? If you buy something a little bit more unique, a little bit more niche, right? Then you have a better chance to control where your supply is even more limited, right? Of course, you have a chance to push up the rental higher. You buy something more mass market, where there's a lot of people like you. Right, then of course it's harder, it takes a longer time. Sometimes the problem is the project itself, right? You bought a good project or a bad project, right? That affects the way market rent or price go up, right? There are some condos in JB were very poorly built, sold to Singaporeans, and those owners will have a very hard time because you get a bad building. Bad building, then hard, difficult. Korean don't want to rent because it's a bad building, not nice. Then you have a very difficult problem when the building is bad. But if your building is good, right, and your supply is controlled, then it's easier for you to push up rents, push up prices as time goes on, right? So now the owner wants to sell the penthouse for 4 million. I say 4 million is very cheap for that penthouse, but he can actually push higher. But we'll see how. But I mean, yeah, so 2020 market supply starts to drop. How long did it recover? A couple of years maybe? I think hard to say exactly when, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it will be a phase thing, right? It will not be immediately, right? Over a few years, any price increases will be over a period of time. But the good thing is there's less competition. You have no one to compete, or at least you know who all your competitors really. Then for us as agent or as property analyst, it's easier to decide. You can tell, this one tier 1, this one tier 2, this one tier 3, or this project 3-bedroom better than 2-bedroom. It's easy to do that kind of analysis because once the market settles, now you don't know. Everything is new. We are testing the market, right? We want to test, this 3-bedroom, this project cannot. We have to test 6 months, 1 year, see how we perform, right? And the new competitor come in. This new competitor come in, then we don't know how the new competitor will impact the previous one. So a lot of things are in flux now because supply keep changing, yeah. Right, but this will fix itself by 2020, and that's what we want, yeah. Yeah, yes. No, it depends on the aspect. It depends very highly. I said we have seen experts, 2-bedders, generally speaking, they are between 2,500 to 3,500 ringgit for 2-bedders. Right, 3-bedders can be 3,000 up to 5,000. We have seen such rental rates. It varies very widely because building, furnishing ability of the unit. There is a wide range. It's like I tell you, Orchard Road. Even within Orchard also, there's a very wide range of rents within Orchard Road, right? Older building, newer building, right? Big unit, small unit. A 3-bedroom can be, like in your case, right? Astaka 3-bedroom is 2,003 square feet. But a 3-bedroom in Skyday will be only 1,000 plus square feet. Right? But both are theoretically 3-bedroom, right? But the sizes are so different, the specs are so different, the rents will differ. So how much can tenants pay? We have seen a very wide range. Like I said, I wouldn't have believed that a penthouse in JB can rent for 18,000, but we did it. Right, so if they can do that, then I don't want to comment so much about what number is correct, because I told the owner 10,000 and I was wrong. And I was wrong, right? So he can hit 18,000, and the neighbor was doing 14, right? So I said, wow, 14. Wow, okay. So I was wrong, I told them 10. So sometimes you don't know. We have to play it out and see as it is. But there are foreigners who can pay, I think, generally speaking. Sometimes the problem is what? The house is not ready. I can tell you that. The house is not ready. You want me to pay you 5,000, but your house not ready, how to pay you 5,000? You know what I mean? Your house not ready. We had scenarios before, I won't say royal family tenant. In-law family or royal family came to Johor, want to rent, right? Asked for 4-bedder, nice one in town. Cannot find, you know. Cannot find. Agent told me cannot find. Where to find? Cannot find. So sometimes I tell the owner, you not ready, you want the tenant, you ask the tenant wait 2 months for you to furnish. I say, where got tenant like that one? This kind of tenant, where got wait for you 2 months? If you want to do those 1 week type furnishing, your furnishing sure not nice, because you jump up, rojak everything inside, all right? You want nice furnishing and you want high paying tenant, you have to be ready first, right? Then you can command a bit premium tenant, right? And your property must be ready. But a lot of Singaporeans make this mistake, they don't do it. Or they wait for tenant, they assume it's a Singapore scenario for them. Okay, so you have to be ready first. Yeah.
One more question? Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. Probably. No. The 2018 was never in the picture one. The 2018 was a speculative date year. It was never officially given by any Malaysian or Singapore side. It was a number given by some idiot in the paper. Right? We have seen many media people simply write things when I've seen so many times, I tell you. Okay, so-called Singapore Straits Times, I get it wrong all the time. All the time, I tell you. Straits Times are #1 for making mistakes in the media, if you ask me. Always make mistakes. I can quote you a most recent example, but 2018 was never a date for this. The actual timeline is, the correct, any official government timeline is 2024. But I think they will miss that also. They will miss that also because of the government change. They have not given a new date as of now. Yeah. Yeah. Use Grab. Grab. Tell the tourists to use Grab. Very safe. Sometimes you don't know, but it's Grab. I mean, Malaysia public transport cannot make it, but Grab, use Grab. Grab solves most problems. I will tell people, Grab solves most problems. Internal travel, Because taxis are unreliable, there's no buses. There are some buses actually, if you know how to use, but the problem is tourists don't know, they will not know one, so it's, As of this point, no. Nothing firm. All speculative. Don't trust them. All speculative.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. I'll still be around in case you have questions later. Thank you.